The baby wasn't crying. That was the first thing Cole Garrett noticed when he rode into the clearing, a silence so complete it felt like the valley was holding its breath. The wagon sat tilted on a broken axle, one wheel half buried in the creek mud. A woman stood beside it, her back to him, shoulders rigid as fence posts. She didn't turn at the sound of his horse. Cole pulled his mare to a stop 20 feet out, hand resting easy on his thigh. Not near his gun. Not yet. "Ma'am?" She flinched. Just a twitch, but he saw it. When she turned, her face was drawn tight, eyes shadowed beneath the brim of a man's hat 2 sizes too large. Dust caked her dress. Blood, old, brown, streaked one sleeve. In her arms, wrapped in a faded quilt, was the baby, still not crying. "Wheels broken," she said. Her voice was flat, careful, like she was holding something down beneath the words. Cole dismounted slow, boots sinking into the soft earth near the water's edge. He kept his movements easy, unthreatening. The woman watched him the way deer watch wolves, ready to bolt, but too tired to run. "Looks that way," he said. "Creek's high. You been here long?" "Long enough." He glanced at the wagon. Canvas torn, supplies scattered in the bed, flour sacks, a cast iron pan, a water barrel tipped on its side. No husband, no second horse, just her, the baby, and a wagon that wasn't going anywhere. "Where you headed?" "North." "North's a big place." She shifted the baby higher against her chest. The quilt slipped, and Cole caught a glimpse of a tiny fist, pale and still. His gut tightened. "Baby, all right?" "He's fine." "Too fast. Too sharp." Cole said nothing, just studied her, the way she held the child too tight, the way her jaw worked like she was chewing on words she couldn't say. He'd seen that look before, on men who'd killed someone, on women who'd run. "I can fix the axle," he said finally. "Get you back on the road by sundown. I don't need help." "Wheel says different." Her eyes flicked to his gun, then back to his face. "I got nothing to pay you with. Didn't ask for payment." A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the creek's low murmur and the distant cry of a hawk circling overhead. The woman's hands trembled where they gripped the quilt. "Why?" she asked. Cole shrugged. "Ain't much else to do today." It wasn't the truth, but it was close enough. He'd been riding fence line for 3 days, checking for breaks, mending what needed mending. The work was lonesome and slow, the kind that gave a man too much time to think. Helping a stranger fix a wagon seemed like a fair trade for an afternoon's distraction. He walked to the wagon, crouched beside the broken axle. The wood had splintered clean through, probably hit a rock crossing the creek. He ran his hand along the damage, calculating. He had rope in his saddlebag, a spare length of hardwood he'd been saving for a corral post. It wouldn't be pretty, but it'd hold long enough to get her wherever north meant. "You got a name?" he asked, not looking up. She hesitated. "Ruth." "Cole Garrett." He stood, brushing dirt from his hands. "You got any tools in there, Ruth?" "Some." He waited, but she didn't move. Just stood there holding that too quiet baby, staring at him like he might vanish if she blinked. "Ruth," he said gently, "I'm gonna need an axe. And whatever rope you got." Finally she nodded. Set the baby down carefully in the wagon bed, so carefully it made Cole's chest ache, and pulled back the canvas. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like every muscle hurt. When she handed him the axe, their fingers brushed. Hers were ice cold despite the heat. Cole got to work. He cut the hard wood to length, lashed it alongside the broken axle with doubled rope, testing the tension with each knot. The sun climbed higher. Sweat soaked through his shirt. Ruth stood in the shade of a cottonwood, rocking slightly, the baby back in her arms. He was nearly finished when he heard the hoofbeats. 3 riders, coming fast from the south, dust rising in a brown plume behind them. Ruth heard it too. Her whole body went rigid, and the color drained from her face so fast Cole thought she might faint. "Ruth, you have to go." Her voice cracked. "Right now. Please." But the riders were already too close. Cole straightened, hand dropping to his side, still not touching his gun, but ready. The three men reined up hard, horses snorting and stamping. They were rough-looking, trail-worn, the kind of men who carried too many guns and not enough conscience. The one in front, broad-shouldered, beard shot through with gray-head eyes like winter sky, cold and clear and empty. Those eyes locked onto Ruth, then the baby, then Cole. "Well," the man said slowly, "ain't this cozy?" Ruth didn't speak, didn't move, just held that baby like it was the only solid thing left in the world. The bearded man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Appreciate you keeping her company, friend," he said to Cole, "but we'll take it from here." Cole glanced at Ruth. She was staring at the ground, trembling so hard the quilt shook. She didn't mention she was traveling with company. Cole said carefully, "That's so." The man swung down from his horse, boots hitting the dirt with a heavy thud. "Well, Ruth's always been the forgetful type. Ain't that right, darling?" Ruth flinched at the word. The other two riders fanned out, casual-like, but Cole saw how their hands rested near their holsters. He knew what this was, knew the shape of danger when it wore a smile. "Name's Boone," the bearded man said, stepping closer. There's my brother's wife. And that baby," his eyes fixed on the bundle in Ruth's arms. "That baby's what we've been looking for." "That's so," Cole said. Wasn't a question. Boone stopped 3 feet away, close enough that Cole could smell whiskey and old sweat. "Yeah, that's so. Now, you seem like a reasonable man, so I'm going to give you a chance to walk away from this. Mount up, ride out. Forget you ever saw us." Cole looked at Ruth again. She met his eyes for the first time since the riders arrived, and what he saw there made his decision for him. Terror, raw and absolute, and underneath it a silent, desperate plea. Cole turned back to Boone. "What if I don't feel like walking away?" Boone's smile faded. "Then you're dumber than you look." The clearing went quiet again, different than before. This silence had weight, had teeth. One of the other riders shifted in his saddle, leather creaking loud in the stillness. Cole's hand hung loose at his side, fingers an inch from his gun. "That baby," he said softly. "Whose is it really?" Boone's jaw tightened. "That ain't your concern. I'm making it my concern." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Boone laughed short, sharp, humorless. "You got stones. I'll give you that. But you're one man. We're three. Math don't work in your favor." "Maybe," Cole said, "but I'm still standing here." Boone's hand twitched toward his gun, and that's when Ruth spoke. "Please." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please. Just go. He doesn't know he doesn't." "Shut up, Ruth," Boone snapped, not taking his eyes off Cole. But Ruth kept talking, words spilling out fast and broken. "It's not his fight. It's not please, Boone. Just let him go. I'll come. I won't run anymore. Just let him." I said, "Shut up." The baby stirred then, finally, letting out a thin, reedy cry. Ruth clutched it tighter, tears streaming down her face. And Cole Garrett made his choice. "Baby's hungry," Cole said, voice level. "Let her feed him." Boone stared at him like he'd spoken Chinese. "What?" "You heard me." Cole gestured to Ruth. "Whatever this is, it can wait 10 minutes. Let her feed the child." Boone's face darkened. "You giving me orders now?" "I'm giving you common sense." Cole kept his tone reasonable, almost friendly, but there was steel underneath. "You want that baby quiet or screaming? Your choice." The two mounted men exchanged glances. One of them, a lean, scar-faced man with nervous hands, cleared his throat. "Boone, maybe nothing." But Boone stepped back, jerking his head toward the wagon. "Fine. 10 minutes. But you," he pointed at Cole, "you stay right where I can see you." Ruth didn't wait for more permission. She turned and stumbled to the wagon, sinking down on the lowered tailgate. Her hands shook as she adjusted the quilt, and Cole deliberately looked away, giving her what privacy he could. Boone paced like a caged animal, spurs jingling with each step. The scar-faced man dismounted, pulled out a flask, took a long drink. The third rider, younger, maybe 20, with cold eyes that said he'd killed before, stayed in the saddle, watching Cole with the patience of a snake. Cole moved slow, keeping his hands visible, and leaned against a cottonwood trunk. "So," he said conversationally, "you boys come far?" "Far enough," Boone muttered, "tracking a runaway wife and a baby. That's a lot of trouble." "Ain't your concern. Keep saying that." Cole picked at a splinter on the tree bark. "Starting to wonder why you're trying so hard to convince me." Boone stopped pacing. "You really want to die today?" "Not particularly, but I'm curious by nature." Cole glanced at Ruth. She had her back to them, hunched protectively over the baby. "See, thing is, I've known a lot of men who chase down their wives. Usually, they don't bring back up. Usually, it's just a man and his anger and a bottle of whiskey. This ain't." "But 3 armed men," Cole continued, as if Boone hadn't spoken. "That's not a husband retrieving his family. That's a hunting party." The scar-faced man capped his flask, suddenly interested. The young one in the saddle shifted, hand drifting toward his gun. Boone's jaw worked. "You don't know nothing. I know that baby's been quiet as death since I got here. Know Ruth's got blood on her sleeve that ain't hers. Know she's more scared of you than she is of dying alone in this valley." Cole pushed off the tree, straightening. "So, yeah, I don't know nothing, but I can guess plenty." Silence fell heavy and thick. Somewhere in the trees, a crow cawed harsh and mocking. Then Ruth spoke from behind them, voice stronger than before. His name was Daniel. All heads turned. She was standing now, the baby settled and quiet against her shoulder. Tears had cut clean tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "Daniel was my husband," she continued. "Boone's brother. He was a good man, a gentle man." Her voice cracked. "These men killed him. Ruth." Boone's voice was a warning, but she kept going, words tumbling out like she'd been holding them in for miles. "They killed him 5 days ago, shot him in our cabin while he slept, and they took his son." She looked at Cole, eyes red-rimmed and fierce. "This is my baby, mine and Daniel's, and they want him dead." The scar-faced man cursed softly. The young rider's hand closed fully on his gun. Cole didn't move, just absorbed the information, filing it away, calculating. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Because Daniel changed his mind," Ruth said. "About the gang, about the killing. He wanted out, wanted to raise his son somewhere clean, somewhere safe. And his own brother," her voice broke, "his own brother put a bullet in him for it." Boone's face had gone stone still. "That ain't how it happened." "No." Ruth's laugh was bitter as ash. "Then tell him, Boone. Tell him how Daniel begged, how he said he wouldn't talk, wouldn't go to the law, just wanted to disappear. Tell him how you shot him anyway." "He was weak," Boone said flatly. "Weakness gets men killed. He knew that. He was your brother. He was a traitor." Ruth's hands tightened on the baby, knuckles white. "And what's the child? What did he betray?" For the first time, something flickered in Boone's eyes, something that might have been guilt, or maybe just irritation. "Kid's a loose end." Daniel told him stories. Probably. Pillow talk. "She knows things." He jerked his chin at Ruth. "Both of them know too much." "He's 8 weeks old," Ruth whispered. "Old enough." Cole felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd seen a lot of hard men in his years. Men who'd killed for money, for revenge, for pride. But this killing a woman and her infant to cover up a murder, this was something else. This was rot. "So here's what's going to happen," Boone said, turning back to Cole. "You're going to mount that horse and ride. We're going to take Ruth and the baby north like we planned. And tomorrow morning, there'll be a tragic accident wagon overturned in a river. Both of them drowned. Sad story. But these things happen." "That how you sleep at night?" Cole asked. "Calling murder an accident? I sleep just fine." Cole nodded slowly. "Figured you might." He glanced at Ruth, then at the baby, really looked at him for the first time. The child had Daniel's nose apparently, Ruth's dark hair. 8 weeks old, barely started living, and these men wanted him dead. Cole had made a lot of choices in his life. Some good, some bad, most falling somewhere in between. He'd walked away from fights that weren't his, minded his own business more times than he could count. The West was wide and brutal, and a smart man learned when to look the other way. But there were lines you didn't cross if you wanted to still recognize yourself in the mirror. Can't let you do it, Cole said quietly. Boone blinked. What? Can't let you take them. Cole's hand dropped to his side, fingers brushing the worn grip of his Colt. Sorry. The scar-faced man took a step back, suddenly nervous. Boone. One man, Boone hissed. He's one goddamn man. One's enough sometimes, Cole said. He looked at Ruth. When I move, you run. Take the baby and you run north, fast as you can. There's a ranch 3 miles that way, white house, red barn. Man named Fletcher. You tell him Cole Garrett sent you. He'll keep you safe. Ruth's eyes widened. But don't argue. Just run. Boone's face twisted with rage. You stupid son of a... Yeah, Cole agreed. Probably. For a heartbeat, the world held perfectly still. 5 people, a broken wagon, a quiet baby, and a choice that couldn't be unmade. Then Boone's hand moved. And, Cole was faster. The gunshot cracked like thunder, echoing off the valley walls. Boone stumbled back, eyes wide with shock, a red stain spreading across his chest. He looked down at it, confused, like he couldn't quite understand what had happened. Then he fell. The scar-faced man was already reaching for his gun when Cole's second shot took him in the shoulder, spinning him around. He hit the ground hard, screaming. The young rider was fast. Cole had to give him that. His gun was halfway out when Cole's third bullet punched through his throat. He made a wet, gurgling sound and toppled from his horse. 3 shots, maybe 4 seconds, and then silence again. Cole stood in the gun smoke, breathing hard, hand still on his Colt. His ears rang, his heart hammered, but his hand was steady. Ruth hadn't moved. She stood frozen by the wagon, clutching the baby, staring at the bodies like she couldn't quite believe they were real. Ruth, Cole said gently, you gotta go now. She looked at him, eyes huge and lost. You killed them. Yeah, they'll come looking. There'll be more. I know. You didn't have to. You could have just... I know that too. Cole holstered his gun. But I did. And now you need to run. Ruth didn't run. Cole waited, listening to the silence settle back over the clearing like dust after a storm. The horses, Boone's and his companions, had bolted at the gunfire, crashing through the brush toward open ground. Only Cole's mare remained, standing patient and calm where he'd left her, trained not to spook. Ruth, he said again. She finally moved, but not away. Instead, she walked toward him, each step careful, like the ground might give way beneath her. When she reached him, she looked down at Boone's body. The outlaw's eyes stared up at nothing, already glazing over in the afternoon heat. I thought he was lying, she whispered. When Daniel told me how dangerous they were, I thought he was exaggerating, making it bigger than it was so I'd understand why he wanted out. She swallowed hard, but he wasn't lying. No, Cole said. He wasn't. She looked up at him. Why did you do it? Told you. Can't let him. No. She shook her head. Why did you really do it? You don't know me. Don't know my son. We're nothing to you. So why would you kill 3 men, risk hanging for strangers? Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, my sister had a baby once. Little girl. Her husband was. Well, he was a lot like Boone. Mean drunk. When Emma tried to leave, take the baby somewhere safe, he came after her. He paused, jaw tight. I wasn't there. Was up north, working a cattle drive. By the time I got back, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. Ruth's eyes filled with tears again. I'm sorry. Me too. Cole turned away, scanning the tree line. But sorry don't change nothing. And standing here talking about it don't either. You need to go. Now. before. The sound came from the south, faint at first, then growing stronger. Hoofbeats. Multiple riders. Ruth's face went white. No. Cole's gut tightened. How many in the gang? 7. Not counting Daniel. Her voice shook. Boone and these 2 made 3. That means 4 more. Cole cursed under his breath. They must have been following closer than Boone thought. He moved fast, dragging Boone's body behind the wagon, out of immediate sight. The scar-faced man was still alive, whimpering and clutching his ruined shoulder. Cole kicked his gun away, then did the same with the young rider's weapon. "Listen to me," he said to Ruth, gripping her shoulders. "You take my horse. You ride to Fletcher's ranch. You don't stop. You don't look back. You understand? What about you? I'll slow them down. They'll kill you. Maybe." He pressed his mare's reins into her free hand. "Or maybe I'll get lucky twice. But either way, you're getting out of here." For a moment, he thought she'd argue. Her mouth opened, closed. Then she nodded once, sharp and decisive. Cole helped her into the saddle, steadying the baby while she settled. The child was quiet again, watching everything with solemn, dark eyes. "Fletcher owes me a favor," Cole said. "Big one. You tell him I'm calling it in. He'll protect you. And if you don't come back," Cole smiled, though it didn't feel like it fit his face right, "then you name that boy something respectable. Not Horace. I never liked that name." Ruth's lips trembled, caught between a sob and a laugh. "Thank you," she whispered. "Go." She went. Cole watched her ride north, the mare's hoofbeats fading into the distance. He stood there until he couldn't see her anymore, until she was just a dust trail vanishing into the hills. Then he turned back to the clearing. The hoofbeats from the south were louder now. Close. Maybe 2 minutes out. Cole checked his Colt, 3 rounds left. He had a Winchester in his saddle scabbard, but Ruth had taken that with the horse. He glanced around the clearing, calculating angles, cover, escape routes. Not good. The wagon offered some protection, but not much. The cottonwood was too far from the creek bank. The best position was behind the rocks near the water, but that would put his back to the current. Trap himself. The scar-faced man groaned. "They're gonna kill you," he rasped. "Kill you slow." "Probably," Cole agreed. He crouched beside the man. "Tell me something. What's Boone's real reason for wanting the baby dead? And don't lie, you're bleeding out. And I'm the only one who might stop it." The man's eyes flickered. "Money," he wheezed. Daniel had money. His share from the last job. 50,000. Hidden somewhere. Boone thought Ruth knew where. She know? Don't think so. But Boone, he wasn't taking chances. Kid might remember something when he grew up. Something Daniel said. He coughed, blood flecking his lips. Stupid reason to kill a baby. But Boone never was smart. Cole stood. "Yeah, I noticed." The riders burst into the clearing 4 abreast, guns drawn, faces hard with anger and purpose. They reined up fast when they saw the bodies, saw Cole standing alone beside the wagon. The leader, a tall man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, took in the scene with cold, calculating eyes. "Where's Boone?" "Dead," Cole said simply. The scarred man's jaw tightened. "And Ruth?" "Gone." "You kill him?" "Yeah." A long, dangerous silence. The 4 riders spread out, forming a loose semicircle. Cole's hand stayed near his gun, but he didn't draw. "Not yet." "You got a name?" the scarred man asked. "Cole Garrett." "Well, Cole Garrett, you just made the last mistake of your life." He glanced at the others. "Take him." Cole's hand moved, but before he could clear leather, a rifle shot cracked from the ridge above. One of the riders jerked and fell from his saddle, a red hole blooming in his chest. Everyone froze. Another shot. A second rider screamed and clutched his leg, tumbling sideways. Cole didn't waste time questioning. He drew and fired in one smooth motion, his bullet taking the scarred man in the gut. The man doubled over, gasping. The fourth rider, a stocky man with wild eyes, wheeled his horse and bolted, racing back the way they'd come. Whoever was on the ridge let him go. Cole kept his gun trained on the scarred man, now on his knees in the dirt. "Who's shooting?" the man rasped. "Don't know," Cole admitted, "but I ain't complaining." A figure emerged from the tree line, old, lean, with a Winchester cradled in his arms and a weathered face that looked like tanned leather. He walked with a slight limp, but his hands were steady. "Fletcher," Cole breathed. The old man grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "Heard shots. Figured you'd gotten yourself in trouble again. How'd you—" "Saw the girl riding hell-bent toward my place. Didn't take a genius to figure she came from here." Fletcher spat in the dirt. "Told you to stop picking up strays, Cole. You came anyway." "Yeah, well." Fletcher shrugged. "Boring day." The scarred man tried to reach for his gun. Fletcher's rifle barked once, and the man's hand exploded in a spray of blood and bone. He shrieked. "Didn't say you could move," Fletcher said mildly. Cole holstered his Colt, suddenly exhausted. "There's one more. Road south. Saw him. Won't get far. Jimmy's watching the road." Fletcher nodded toward the ridge. "Got 2 boys up there. They'll track him. Ruth and the baby. Safe at my place. Maggie's got 'em. Fed the kid. Got Ruth cleaned up." Fletcher studied Cole. "Girl says you killed 3 men for her. That true?" "Yeah." "Why?" Cole looked at the bodies scattered around the clearing. At the broken wagon. At the place where Ruth had stood holding her son. Terrified and brave and desperate. "Because somebody had to," he said finally. Fletcher grunted. "Fair enough." He walked over to the scar-faced man, still alive but fading fast. "This one talk?" Said Daniel had money hidden. 50,000 from a job. Boone wanted it. Hell of a reason to murder your own brother. "Yeah." Fletcher prodded the dying man with his boot. "Where's the money?" The man's eyes rolled. "Don't know." "Sure you don't." Fletcher looked at Cole. "We should get gone. More might come." "Yeah." Cole glanced around one last time. "Help me with the bodies." They worked in silence, dragging the dead into a gully and covering them with rocks and brush. Not a proper burial, but more than they deserved. The wounded, scar-faced man died before they finished, choking on his own blood. When it was done, Fletcher offered Cole a canteen. The water was warm and tasted like leather, but Cole drank deep. "You gonna tell me the rest?" Fletcher asked. So Cole did. All of it, finding Ruth, fixing the wagon, Boone's arrival, the choice he'd made. Fletcher listened without interrupting, face unreadable. When Cole finished, the old man was quiet for a long moment. Then, "You know they'll come looking. Gang loses 7 men. They don't just let it go." "I know. You know you probably started a blood feud." "I know that too." Fletcher shook his head. "You're an idiot, Cole. Been told that before. But you did right." Fletcher clapped him on the shoulder. "Come on, let's get you home. Maggie'll want to feed you, and that girl's gonna want to thank you proper." They walked toward the ridge where Fletcher's horse waited. Behind them, the clearing was quiet again. Peaceful, almost, if you didn't look too close at the disturbed earth. "Fletcher," Cole said as they climbed. "That favor you owed me. Don't." The old man waved him off. "This makes us even. More than even, actually. I still owe you for that business in Abilene." "You sure?" "Yeah. Besides," Fletcher grinned, "ain't shot anyone in months. Was starting to feel old." Fletcher's ranch sat in a valley that cupped the last light of day like water in a basin. The house was exactly as Cole had described, white clapboard with a red barn behind it, smoke curling from the chimney, chickens scattered as they rode in, and a dog some kind of shepherd mix bounded out to greet them, tail wagging. Maggie Fletcher stood on the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. She was small and round, with iron-gray hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that missed nothing. "About time," she called. "Supper's getting cold." "Had some cleaning up to do," Fletcher said, dismounting with a grunt. Maggie's gaze flicked to Cole, taking in the gun smoke stains on his shirt, the dried blood on his hands. Her expression didn't change. Ruth and the baby are in the guest room. I'll fix you a bath after you eat. Yes, ma'am, Cole said. Inside, the house smelled like cornbread and stew. Ruth sat at the kitchen table, the baby in her arms, looking small and lost in one of Maggie's clean dresses. Her hair was damp, combed back from her face. Without the dust and fear, she looked younger than Cole had thought. Maybe 25, maybe less. She stood when she saw him. You came back. Told you I would. Cole hung his hat on a peg by the door. Well, mostly. Ruth's eyes went to Fletcher. He saved you. We saved each other, Cole said. That's how it works out here. Maggie bustled around, setting plates and bowls on the table. Sit, she ordered. Both of you. And don't argue. I've had enough men bleeding on my floor for one day. They sat. Maggie ladled stew into bowls, sliced cornbread, poured coffee. The baby made small cooing sounds, and Ruth rocked him gently, her movements automatic, soothing. For a few minutes, nobody spoke. They just ate, letting the warmth and food settle into their bones. Cole hadn't realized how hungry he was until the first bite hit his stomach. He'd been running on adrenaline for hours, and now it was draining away, leaving him hollow and shaky. They won't stop, Ruth said finally, quietly. The gang, they'll keep coming. Fletcher nodded. Probably. So, what do I do? She looked between them, desperate. I can't run forever. Not with a baby. And I can't. Her voice cracked. I can't keep putting people in danger. You didn't put anyone in danger, Cole said. Boone did that. He made his choices. We made ours. But you didn't have to. Yes, I did. Cole met her eyes. Maybe not in a way that makes sense on paper, but in every way that matters. Maggie set down her spoon with a soft clink. There's a convent, she said, up in Montana Territory. Sisters of Mercy. They take in women who need the sanctuary. No questions asked. No names required. Ruth's eyes widened. A convent run by a woman named Sister Benedict. She's got a spine like a railroad spike and a shotgun she knows how to use. Maggie smiled faintly. I stayed there once, years ago, when I was running from someone. She'll protect you, both of you. How do I get there? We'll take you, Fletcher said. Leave in 2 days. Give us time to make sure no one's watching the roads. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. Fletcher's tone was final. You're accepting. There's a difference. Ruth's throat worked. She looked down at the baby, stroked his soft hair with one finger. Daniel never told me, she whispered, what he'd done, the things he'd been part of. I knew he had a past, knew it was rough, but he said he was done with it, said we were starting fresh. Maybe he believed that, Cole said. Maybe. Ruth's eyes were distant, seeing something the rest of them couldn't. When Boone came that night, Daniel tried to talk to him, tried to explain. He wasn't begging for his life, he was begging for his brother's soul, telling him it wasn't too late to change, to be better. She blinked, and tears slipped down her cheeks, and Boone just laughed and shot him. Maggie reached across the table, covered Ruth's hand with her own. Didn't say anything, just held on. I grabbed the baby and ran, Ruth continued. Didn't take anything except the clothes I was wearing and Daniel's gun. Didn't even know where I was going, just away. I walked for 2 days before I found that wagon abandoned by the creek. Thought maybe it was luck. Thought maybe God was giving me a chance. Maybe he was, Maggie said softly. Or maybe he sent me, Cole added. I wasn't supposed to be out that way. Was going to ride the north fence line, but my horse threw a shoe that morning. Changed my route. He shrugged. Coincidence, maybe. Or something else. Fletcher snorted. You getting religious on us, Cole? No. Just thinking out loud. They finished eating as the last light bled from the sky. Maggie cleared the dishes, then showed Cole to a room where a tub of steaming water waited. He washed the day off his skin, the blood, the gun smoke, the weight of what he'd done. When he emerged, dressed in clean clothes Maggie had laid out, he felt almost human again. He found Ruth on the porch, rocking the baby in an old chair. The night was cool and clear. Stars scattered across the sky like thrown salt. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Too much to think about." She didn't look up. "This morning I thought I was going to die. Thought they'd catch me and kill me and my son would never have a chance to live. And now—" She trailed off. "Now you're safe." "Am I?" She finally met his eyes. "Is anyone ever really safe?" Cole leaned against the porch rail. "No," he said honestly. "Not forever. But you can have moments. Days. Maybe years if you're lucky. That's all anyone gets. Is it enough? Has to be." The baby stirred, made a soft sound. Ruth adjusted the blanket around him. "I'm going to name him Daniel," she said, "after his father, so he knows who he came from. But I'll tell him about you too. About the man who saved us both." "Don't need that," Cole said quickly. "I know." Ruth smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "But I'm going to anyway." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds, crickets, distant coyotes, the wind moving through the grass. Inside, Fletcher's low voice rumbled as he talked with Maggie. Somewhere in the barn, a horse nickered. "What will you do?" Ruth asked. "After we're gone," Cole considered. "Go back to my ranch, fix some fence, maybe hire on some help for the fall roundup." He paused. "Probably spend a lot of time looking over my shoulder, waiting to see if the rest of that gang comes calling. I'm sorry. Don't be. I knew what I was signing up for." He looked at her. "And I'd do it again." Ruth's eyes shimmered. "Why? What makes a man like you do something like this?" Cole thought about his sister, about Emma and her baby girl, about the grave he'd visited every year on the anniversary of their deaths, about all the times he'd wished he'd been there, been faster, been better. "Because someone has to," he said finally. "And this time, I was there." Ruth nodded slowly, understanding passing between them without more words needed. She stood, cradling the sleeping baby. "I should put him down. Thank you, Cole, for everything." "Ma'am." He tipped his head. She paused at the door. "You're a good man. I'm a man who does what needs doing. There's a difference." "No," Ruth said softly. "There isn't." She went inside, leaving Cole alone with the night. He stayed on the porch for a long time, watching the stars wheel overhead, thinking about choices and consequences and the thin line between justice and murder. Eventually, Maggie brought him coffee. "You all right?" "Yeah." "Liar." But she said it kindly. "Killing a man's never easy. Not if you're doing it right. Boone deserved it. Maybe. Probably. But that don't make it lighter to carry." She sipped her own coffee. "Fletcher told me what happened, what you did. I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice, Cole. You chose the hard right over the easy wrong. Not many men would have done the same." Cole said nothing, just held the warm mug and let the night settle around him like a blanket. "We'll get her to Montana," Maggie said. "She'll be safe there. The sisters will protect her, help her start over. And that baby will grow up never knowing how close he came." "Good," Cole said. "That's good." Maggie patted his shoulder. "Get some sleep. Morning comes early, and you look like hell." "Yes, ma'am." He did sleep, eventually. Deep and dreamless. The kind of sleep that comes after you've emptied yourself out completely. And when he woke to the smell of bacon and coffee, the sun streaming through the window, he felt lighter somehow, like maybe he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying for years. 2 days passed in quiet preparation. Fletcher sent riders out to watch the roads, check for signs of pursuit. They found nothing, just the one man who'd fled the clearing, and he'd been tracked to a town 20 miles south, where he'd bought a horse and ridden hard for the Kansas border. Gone, probably for good. Rest of the gang scattered, Fletcher reported on the second evening. Word got out about what happened. 7 men dead, no money recovered, and a woman and baby in the wind. Nobody wants to keep chasing that kind of bad luck. Ruth sagged with relief. "It's really over. Looks that way." Fletcher glanced at Cole. "But we'll still get you to Montana, just to be sure." They left at dawn on the third day. Fletcher drove the wagon with Maggie beside him. Ruth and the baby nestled in back among blankets and supplies. Cole rode alongside, eyes constantly scanning the horizon. The journey north took 5 days. They traveled through high country, following old trails that skirted the main roads. The weather held clear and cool, autumn beginning to color the aspen groves gold and orange. Ruth grew stronger during the trip. The haunted look faded from her eyes, replaced by something harder but healthier. She talked more, told stories about Daniel, the good parts, the man he'd been trying to become before his past caught up with him. He wanted to be a school teacher, she said one night around the campfire. Can you imagine? A man like that, who'd done the things he'd done, wanting to teach children. Why not? Maggie said. Redemption's for everyone. That's the whole point. Maybe. Ruth stared into the flames. I just wish he'd had more time. We all wish that, Cole said quietly. On the 5th day, they crested a ridge and saw the convent below a cluster of buildings built from gray stone, with a chapel at the center and gardens spreading out in neat rows. A cross topped the highest point, catching the morning light. Sister Benedict met them at the gate. She was tall and angular, with steel-gray hair beneath her wimple and eyes that assessed them in one sweeping glance. Fletcher, she said, her voice carrying the flat tones of the Midwest. Been a while. Sister. Fletcher nodded respectfully. Brought you a package. Sister Benedict's gaze moved to Ruth, then the baby. Something softened in her face. Come, she said simply. Let's get you settled. Inside, the convent was cool and quiet, smelling of beeswax and bread. Ruth clutched the baby tighter, overwhelmed. You'll be safe here, Sister Benedict said. No one comes onto these grounds without my permission, and I don't give it lightly. She paused. We ask no questions about your past. We care only about your future. You may stay as long as you need, weeks, months, years, work alongside the sisters, help with the children we care for. In return, you'll have shelter, food, and protection. I don't know how to thank you, Ruth whispered. Don't thank me. Thank God and the man who brought you here. Sister Benedict looked at Cole. Fletcher tells me you killed 7 men to save this woman and her child. 3. Cole corrected. Fletcher and his boys got the rest. Still, the sister's eyes were sharp. That's a heavy burden. Thank you for watching. Yes, ma'am. You regret it. Cole thought about Boone's cold eyes, about Ruth's terror, about the baby who'd been too quiet, too still because his mother had been running for her life. No, he said. I don't. Sister Benedict nodded slowly. Good. Regret is for mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. She turned back to Ruth. Come, I'll show you your room. They watched Ruth go, the baby in her arms, following the sister deeper into the building. At the last moment, Ruth looked back, found Cole's eyes, and mouthed 2 words. Thank you. Then she was gone. Well, Fletcher said, breaking the silence. That's that. They stayed the night, sleeping in the convent's guest house. In the morning, Sister Benedict walked them to their wagon. She pressed a small leather pouch into Cole's hand. What's this? He asked. A token. For when the weight gets too heavy. She smiled slightly. Open it later. Cole pocketed the pouch without looking inside. She'll be all right. Better than all right. She's strong, that one. Stronger than she knows. Sister Benedict's gaze drifted to the chapel. And the boy will grow up here, surrounded by good people. He'll never have to carry his father's sins. That's all I wanted, Cole said. I know. The sister clasped his hand briefly. Go with God, Cole Garrett, and know you did a good thing. The ride back south was easier, lighter somehow. Fletcher and Maggie talked quietly in the wagon. Cole rode ahead, letting his mind wander. Halfway home, he remembered the pouch. He reined in, opened it carefully. Inside was a small wooden cross, worn smooth with age, and a note in careful handwriting. Courage is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of it. You have more than you know. Sister B. Cole held the cross for a moment, feeling its weight. Then he tucked it back in the pouch and slipped it into his shirt pocket, close to his heart. When they reached Fletcher's ranch 3 days later, Cole stayed only long enough to collect his horse, which had been well cared for in his absence, and thank them both properly. "Don't be a stranger," Maggie said, hugging him tight. "I'll try," Cole promised. "Liar," Fletcher said, but he was grinning. Cole rode home alone, the late afternoon sun warm on his back. His ranch was exactly as he'd left it, quiet, empty, waiting. He unsaddled his horse, fed and watered her, then stood in his doorway looking out at the land he'd worked so hard to build. He'd killed 3 men, maybe 4, depending on how you counted. He'd risked his life for strangers, started a blood feud that might not be over, despite what Fletcher said. But a woman was safe. A baby would grow up in peace. And somewhere in Montana, Ruth would rebuild a life from the ashes of the old one. That had to count for something. Cole went inside, lit a lamp, and started a fire in the stove. He'd check the fence line tomorrow, hire that help, get back to the steady rhythm of ranch work. But tonight, he'd just sit, remember, and hope that when his time came, the scales would balance out in his favor. 3 years later, Cole was mending a fence post when he saw the rider approaching. A woman alone, sitting straight in the saddle. Something about the way she moved was familiar. He set down his hammer and waited. Ruth reined in 10 feet away. She looked different, older, stronger, with sun-weathered skin and calloused hands. But her eyes were the same, steady and clear. "Cole Garrett," she said. "Ruth." He smiled. "Didn't expect to see you again." "I wasn't sure I'd come." She dismounted, walked closer. "But I wanted you to know, wanted you to see." She gestured behind her, and for the first time, Cole noticed the small figure perched on her horse, a boy, maybe 3 years old, with dark hair and solemn eyes. "Daniel," Ruth said. "Say hello to Mr. Garrett." The boy waved shyly. Cole felt something loosen in his chest. "He's gotten big." "Yes." Ruth's voice was thick with emotion. "We have a good life now. The sisters taught me bookkeeping, and I work in town helping with accounts. Daniel goes to the convent school. He's smart, so smart, and kind, just like his father wanted to be." "That's good," Cole said. "That's real good, Ruth." She reached into her saddlebag, pulled out a small package wrapped in brown paper. "For you," she said, handing it over. "To repay a debt." Cole unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a leather-bound journal, the pages filled with careful handwriting. He flipped through dates, entries, drawings, a record of their journey, their new life, little Daniel's first steps, first words. The last entry was dated yesterday. "Today we ride south to see the man who saved us, to show him that his courage bore fruit, that goodness matters, that one man's choice can change everything." Cole closed the journal, throat tight. "You didn't have to." "Yes," Ruth said. "I did." They stood in comfortable silence, watching young Daniel play with a loose piece of rope, giggling as he tried to make a loop like a cowboy. "I should go," Ruth said eventually. "Long ride back." "Stay for supper," Cole offered. "It's not much, but we'd like that." Ruth smiled. "We'd like that very much." So they did. Cole cooked beans and biscuits, and they ate on the porch while the sun set in shades of orange and gold. Daniel chattered about school, about the horses at the convent, about everything and nothing, and Cole listened and smiled and felt the weight he'd carried for 3 years finally lift. When they left the next morning, Ruth paused before mounting. "You know," she said, "Sister Benedict was right. You're a good man, Cole Garrett." "I'm just a man," Cole said. "But I try. That's all any of us can do." He watched them ride north until they disappeared into the morning haze. Then he picked up his hammer, returned to the fence line, and got back to work. The land stretched out before him, wild, hard, beautiful, the same as it had always been. But somehow, It felt different now. It felt like home.